FreeLunch Podcast family, are you trying to listen to the latest FreeLunch Podcast episode? Well, fear no further. This is a public service announcement. FreeLunch Podcast has moved to the New South Movement Network. So if you have an iPhone, tune into the iTunes Podcast app, search for New South Movement Network, and subscribe there. If you're on your Android and you like to use SoundCloud, do the same. Search for New South Movement Network and subscribe to all of the catalog of podcasts in the New South Movement Network. That includes Mondays, the Retroscope podcast, featuring our very own BG and the Shy Peacock. Tuesdays, D1 Sports Talk podcast, featuring yours truly, Tight, and Coach, with featured guest Joey. If you're going to listen to FreeLunch Podcast on the Thursdays, as usual, do the same. Search for New South Movement Network, and you'll be able to tune in. And then also on Fridays, we got the Girl Talk Podcast. So, again, if you are looking for a FreeLunch Podcast, we have moved to a new station, to a new channel. We've joined our other podcasts in our network. And what I want you to do right now is get your phone out, go to your iTunes Podcast app or your Android SoundCloud app, search for New South Movement Network, and join the movement. Keep listening, subscribing, providing us with comments. Let's make this a movement. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope you listen to a FreeLunch Podcast or a New South Movement Network podcast soon. We out of here. Peace.
Get some. Y'all in the winner's circle, shot some squares though. You in the killing fields, ignoring the scarecrows. Yeah, ho, I'm Benny Blanco in the last scene, making the power play high off of caffeine. This is a tag team, fair to see the bad dream. The male version of Carrie killing the class queen. Bati bloggers quit dodging my emails. Take that whack shit off, the real prevail.
Welcome to the FreeLunch Podcast, home of the New South Movement. This is your boy Tight, one half of the FreeLunch Podcast duo. And we got the main man with us, BG. BG, what's happening?
Yes, I am. BG the 2-7 kid. This is the FreeLunch Podcast, and we are in the Chocolate City, Washington, D.C. for another special FreeLunch Podcast episode. What's going on, Tight?
Not much. Happy to be able to sit amongst a legend, a sixth-generation Washingtonian, a mentor to your favorite sports journalist, well known here in the D.C. area, appointed by a presidential candidate, appointee. Got a lot of adjectives that could describe our guest today. But before I even introduce him, can you let the people know specifically our guest why you the 2-7 kid?
Man, that's crazy that you asked that, because I was thinking about having to get that description at some point. So that's kind of ironic that you say. Well, the 2-7 comes from, it's 67 counties in the state of Alabama, where I'm from. And where in most states on the license plates, they'll designate what county you're, or what township that you're from. Well, they do ours based off of number. In alphabetical order. So the first three, 1 through 3, are Jefferson County, Mobile County, and Montgomery County. Those are the largest counties in Alabama. So they are designated as that. All the other counties are placed based off of alphabetical order. So I'm from Dallas County. So D is the 27th in alphabetical order. Mm-hmm. Dallas County is the county. I'm from Selma. Selma's in Dallas County. So that's how I come up with the 2-7 kid.
All right.
Yeah.
So most of us from Selma, we refer to Selma as the 2-7.
Yes, they do. But I thought about that the other day.
That's crazy.
And I was saying, BG, you might need to describe what the 2-7 is. But sitting amongst us and gonna be able to share his story, and really a historian to not only sports but to politics, and really being a pioneer in what we see today as sports journalism. The original Inside the Sports pioneer, founder. Like I said, sixth generation Washingtonian, 1980 Washingtonian Man of the Year. Interesting story. Before moving up here, and I'm going to bring on Harold Bell, but before moving up here, I knew very little about Harold Bell. And the way that I actually found out about him was he was putting on a fundraiser for his nonprofit, Kids in Trouble. And they did an announcement on Tom Jordan Morning Show. And he was bringing up, for those of you that watch boxing, he was bringing up the legendary Burt Sugar. And so I happened to go out there to that event for Kids in Trouble. And with me going out there and attending, I learned of Harold Bell, who's our guest today. So, Mr. Bell.
Yes.
Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. One of the things I want to clear up is that I'm a fourth generation Washingtonian.
Fourth generation.
Yeah, my family settled here in Washington in the early 1800s. My great-grandfather laid the first brick to build historical Mount Airy Baptist Church located at North Capitol and L Street in the shadows of the Capitol. 2 blocks north of the church is a senior citizen complex called the Tyler House. It's named after my great uncle, the Reverend Earl Tyler. So when you start talking about history in this town, it's not he say, she say with me. I've lived it.
You've lived the history, and that's one reason why I really wanted to have Harold on the show, Mr. Bell, because like he corrected me, but he's a fourth generation Washingtonian. He's been amongst the stars, some of the famous sports figures that we know today that we'll kind of talk about even during today's podcast. But what we've been kind of doing is really trying to capture the history. It's specifically with our legends in our community. Mm-hmm. And I personally see Harold as one of those individuals. And I think it's important that when you talk about sports and you talk about the layout of how sports journalism is done today, a lot of that comes from what Harold actually started through the original Inside Sports. And we're going to get into that. But I did I started off talking about the Burt Sugar nonprofit fundraiser that you did for your nonprofit organization. I kind of wanted to go back to that event. Do you remember that event?
Yeah, I remember that event. I think one other important tidbit that we need to add in here this year, I mean, your guys' timing is perfect, marks 50 years that I've been working in the U Street corridor, which was once known as Black Broadway. I've been working with youth gangs and at-risk children for 50 years. I started out with the United Planning Organization in 1965. They hired 3 neighborhood workers. One guy's name was H. Rap Brown. Wow. The other guy's name was Petey Green, and they hired Harold Bell. I'm the last man standing, and I'm still up on the U Street corridor. I'm the historian for Ben's Chili Bowl, the world famous Ben's Chili Bowl. So this timing is perfect, for you guys to be sitting down with me this morning, because like I said, this is the 50th year that I've been working with at-risk children and youth gangs.
Wow. Can you talk about your kit for a minute in that particular event? Because, like I said, I moved up here. I'm from Alabama, just like BG is. And I'm an avid Tom Jordan Morning Show listener. Mm-hmm. And they advertised or they discussed that particular event where you were honoring Mr. Sugar, who's a longtime friend of yours. Yeah. And recently, Mr. Sugar, a few years ago, he passed away. Yep. Mm-hmm. And I know that was tough for you.
Yes, indeed.
But we can kind of just use that as an icebreaker and really talk about that particular event, but also Mr. Sugar, someone that you've known for years.
Yeah. Number one, Tom Joyner. I was cited on the Tom Joyner as a black history landmark, a little known black history landmark.
Little known black history fact.
Yeah, that's right. Right. And Burt Sugar, he was in town to do a boxing show for the armed forces. And I say, man, everything that Bert has done for kids in trouble and inside sports, this would be a great time to honor him. So I got Eleanor Holmes Norton to honor him on the House floor in the Congressional Record. And that's how that came about. And we had a big plaque for Bert, and we talked about that. Bert he's like a brother. Bert is a native Washingtonian. A lot of folks don't know it. He's a native Washingtonian, and he was living in New York. But Bert is talking about a true historian, not only boxing, but baseball, football, basketball. Bert knows some sports, man. And when he passed, shortly after we gave him that award, that was a tough loss. That was a tough loss because, Bert Sugar didn't have any cut card. He wasn't sometimey like a lot of these athletes are. You see him one day and they one way, then next week you see him there another way. Bert was always being Bert. And that's what my wife and I enjoyed about him, because he was always there for the Christmas toy parties, whatever, fashion shows, whatever I needed. And when I went out to Las Vegas, he would carry me on his radio shows where he was going to be being a guest, And he's an interesting story because Bert spoke his mind much like myself. And Don King couldn't stand us. Don King couldn't stand it, man. He would give us press credentials in the nosebleed section, So one particular fight in Madison Square Garden, I think it was the Trinidad Bernard Hopkins fight. Well, I was on good terms with Don, so Don gave me tickets down on the floor and put Bert up in the bleachers. So I told Bert, I said, man, here, you take my credential, I go sit up there. Ain't no big thing, because, Bert was big time, He need to be down there, Yeah. But Don King, boy, if you didn't go along to get along with him, you were in trouble. And I stayed in trouble with Don King.
Because you wasn't going along to get along. You were going to let him know what it was.
That's right.
But just for our listeners, this is the type of interview that we're going to have today. If you could just imagine the stories that Harold has to share with us. And we kind of want to take that journey with him from just the beginning. And one quick tad bit, because our audience is mainly Generation X, Generation Y. And, I made the assumption that most of them knew who Mr. Sugar was. Yeah. But just to give a description, for those of you that may not be as familiar as myself or BG or Harold, if you ever watch boxing or you ever watch ESPN classics or what have you, he was the white guy that always wore the hat,
fedora,
had the cigar. And when you saw him outside of work, he would have a drink in his hand.
That's right,
a brown liquor of his choice in his hand. So I think that's a pretty good description for those of you to help you kind of get a mental picture of who Bert Sugar was, a boxing historian, but not only boxing, but as Harold mentioned, just a sports historian.
That's right.
So, but we wanted to use this time really to talk about you and for you to share your story with our audience. Mm-hmm. I kind of mentioned earlier that you were a mentor to a number of journalists, but before we even get into the details behind that statement, can we just talk about your high school days and being a two-sport athlete and playing sports and kind of lay the foundation for the man that you are today?
Well, I think one of the most important things is growing up in the Northeast Housing Project. I was really born in Brooklyn, New York. I know absolutely nothing about Brooklyn, New York. My mother was 6 or 7 months pregnant when she followed my father to New York. My father was like a Rolling Stone. You heard of that? Yeah. They were telling where he going to end up, Playboy. And my mother followed him up there pregnant with me. And I ended up being born in Kings County Hospital in Brooklyn, New York. I was up there less than a year when she brought me back to Washington, D.C., which has always been my home. So growing up, I had a pretty difficult time because of my deadbeat dad. And my mother moved back here to Washington. We moved in a little shack up on Douglas Street Northeast. Washington, right off Kenworth Avenue leading toward the Baltimore-Washington Parkway. We grew up in a little one-bedroom shack, man, and I remember, I'll tell you, I vaguely remember my mother leaving me to go get some milk one morning and left me with a dog. I had a German Shepherd dog when I was a little kid by the name of Billy, and she thought I was asleep. And it was just me and the dog in there and a kerosene lamp. And one of us knocked over the kerosene lamp. And when my mother got back, the fire engines were out there, and there I was sitting out in the yard, crying my eyes out with my dog. And the shack burned down. The only thing that was left standing was the outhouse. And to this day, I don't know how I got out of that shack. My dog didn't tell. He didn't say a thing, but we figured he got me out of there. You understand? And that's how my life started, man. And I had ended up with 3 other brothers. See, my heroes growing up could not shoot a jump shot from the corner, could not hit a baseball out of the park, or kick a football 60 yards. My heroes were black women, my grandmother and my mother. They taught me how to be a superstar in the game called life. Me and my 3 brothers, man. You know, my grandmother raised us early because my dad was always gone, and he'd come in town, make a baby, and then leave, you know. So my grandmother ended up taking care of us until my mother got on her feet, graduated from high school, got a job with the government accounting office here in Washington, and was able to apply for housing in the projects. And then she came and got us from my grandmother, and my grandmother made her an offer she couldn't refuse. Said, well, you take Earl and Harold, and I'm keeping Bobby, the oldest one. So she raised my older brother, and we went to the projects. And man, in that different world, you know, it was like being free. Because my grandmother was tough, boy. She was a warrior, man. You know, she was the enforcer. You name it, man. My grandmother was on the one. And we grew up in the church. You know, we spent 3, 4 days, 5 days in the church, man. You know, my grandmother played the organ. My aunts and uncle were on the choir. They kept the books. And my great grandfather, my great uncle was preaching by that time. He could preach like Martin Luther King, boy. And man, on church on Sundays, it was like a revival every Sunday. And man, people would come out there, and man, this man shouting. And if you got there 5 minutes after 11, you ain't had no seat. You had to stand up, man. That's how I remember church. That's how I remember real church, you know. After church, we have dinner downstairs in the dining room. Fried chicken, and man, look here. Colonel Sanders had to steal the recipe from our ancestors. You understand? Right. Man, that was some of the greatest fried chicken and biscuits, boy.
and community, and everybody come together and fellowship.
That's right. And see, what a lot of people don't realize, I came by being a community person legit. Because on Sundays, my great uncle and my grandmother went out into the community, man, surgeon quarters, the project around by the church, Mount Airy, and we went to the hospitals and everything. So I learned about being a community involved person early. So I came about it legit, you know. And of course, when I went to live with my mother, me and my brother kind of ran wild, you know, and we were in the housing project. And my mother had this little job at the general accounting office, but she got fired. She, you know, the last hired, the first fired. Right. That's how it happened. So my mama had to come home, and we were on welfare, you know, because she had to find a way to make it. But my mom was always lucky, man, with the numbers. She could hit a number, dream a number, hit a number like that, man. And then she started having card parties on the weekends, selling chicken dinners and beer and liquor, you know. And she was a hustler, man. And a lot of people don't realize, man, how tough that was for her. You understand? Because people knew she was lucky and had money, and they would always come around. My mother was a soft touch. Anybody with a sad story, she gave her money, you know. And it became very difficult, man, because people become jealous when you become successful like that. Any kind of success in the black community brings out the player hating and envy and jealousy. So they started snitching on my mother to the police. And man, me and my brother Earl be in the bed, man, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and police kicking our door down.
Oh wow.
Taking my mother out in handcuffs. Me and Earl be sitting there on the steps crying. And my mother would turn around and she'd say, I'll be back to take y'all to church in the morning. And she would be back, man, and take us to Mount Mary Baptist Church or put us on the bus or the streetcar going down to church, man. That's how I remember. You understand? And I remember that during these difficult times, my mother ended up having a nervous breakdown, a mental breakdown, man, because of stress. You understand?
Right, stress, yeah.
And a lot of these kind of things weren't talked about then. Mm-hmm. You understand? They weren't talked about. It was a little dirty secret, you know. But it was mental illness, man. I never denied my mother having mental illness because it wasn't something to hide to me, man. My mother was a hard worker. You understand? Tried to take care. Well, ended up being 3 of us at the home. My younger brother ended up there. But man, I had to find a way. After my mother got sick, I said, man, I got to find a way to help my mother. My brother Earl became a thug, and what they used to do, they'd go down on the 8th Street corridor in Northeast and hit cash registers. You know, and that was the business district. And I tried it a couple of times, but I was the lookout. But it was too much drama for me. Too much. I said, man, I can't, man, I'm going back to the Safeway to carry some groceries, you know, where it's safe, you know. So I went back to the Safeway and started carrying groceries. And then one of my homeboys in the project said, hey, Harold, come on, man, I'm going to take you out to the golf course, man. You can make triple the amount of money that you can carrying groceries, right? So I said, why not, man? So, man, they took me out to Burning Tree Golf Course, one of the most exclusive golf courses in this country. Mm-hmm. This is where all the rich and powerful white men played. They didn't allow no women out there and no blacks, you know of that. So I went out there, man, and on the way out there, one of my homeboys said, look, Harold, no matter what, I know you like to gamble. Stay away from Petey Green. Don't go nowhere near Petey Green. Petey Green was an ex-convict, a thief, man, drug abuser, liar, cheater. But Petey didn't come out there to caddy on the weekends. Petey would come out there and go deep down in the woods, right? And set up a little gambling casino, craps and cards.
At the place?
At the golf course, yeah. And so he waited for suckers like me, been out there with them bags all day, come in and go down there and take out money, you know? Yeah. So I said, man, y'all ain't got to worry about me going in no Petey Green, you know? So I kind of, about the 3rd week out there, I got in before everybody else. I got in earlier. And, you know, like I said, this is where all the rich and powerful white men played that made decisions on the country, on the putting green and on the fairway.
Let's pause for a minute because I know where you're going with this story. Just to shape the story, how old are you at this time? What grade are you in high school?
I'm just a junior. I'm a junior in Spingarn at the time.
So you're a junior. In high school. You're a junior in high school. You're playing basketball.
I'm playing football, basketball, and baseball. I played all 3 sports and got kicked off every team except the football team. I was the captain, leading scorer, but I was selfish. Man. I ruined some great teams, man. And my baseball coach, I tried to be Willie Mays, and he said, hell, hold it. And I stole home one game, lost a game, and he took my uniform and said, I think you better go up to New York and join Willie Mays. And that was a bad experience. Then I got kicked off the basketball team. My coach had created what we call a boxing one, where I was responsible for the other team's high score. Right. Everybody else played the zone. Well, I found I wasn't getting my name in the paper playing defense. So I went out and started learning to shoot, and then I disrupted the team and ended up getting put off. So it was that type of scenario. See, I always thought that I was the best thing on the field when I went out there. I was confidence, you know. I was a little guy. So I had to go out there with an attitude, you know, because they take advantage of little guys like myself. I was wide receiver, but my high school football coach put me at safety my freshman year at Spingarn. So I played defensive back, ran punts back, and I didn't play wide receiver until the next year. But that was the kind of a growth, and that was a man who saved my life was Dave Brown, the head coach. He coached Elgin Baylor.
That's what I wanted to also talk about too. Before we even get into go back to the Petey Green story, can you talk about, because I remember you guys talking about just some of the athletes that were growing up back in that time, and even talking about the playground where you guys would go and play basketball and different sports. Can you talk about some of your peers that were growing up during that era and that you were playing against?
Well, we learned, I tell you, Maury Wills was one of the greatest all-around athletes to come out of this town, play for the Dodgers. He revolutionized base stealing in the Major League Baseball for the Dodgers. The Dodgers finally went on to win some World Series with Maury Wills. Maury Wills grew up in Parkside, grew up in my housing project. His brother, Duck, was my quarterback at Spingarn. And Maury Wills was a great football player, too. And he would come home during the minor league. He stayed in the minor leagues almost 10 years, man, before he made it to the Dodgers. But he would come home, and there was a team called the Stonewalls, amateur football team. And our coach made arrangements for us to scrimmage the Stonewalls. Man, these guys, man, it was like men against little boys, you understand? And man, they were tough, but that prepared us for the season, you know what I mean? And Maury and Earl Riches and a lot of these guys, a guy named, it's so many people, so many great athletes. Right. Gary Mays was one of those great, one-arm bandit we call him, that I was able to watch when I came up, man. He was a catcher. And it's unbelievable. No one ever stole a base on him with one arm. Yeah. I've heard about that. And could hit that ball. He was in a trial up at Griffith Stadium. You told me. And it ended up being the most MVP, man. People with two arms. He hit the ball out of the stadium. The only one who hit the ball out of the stadium. And they wouldn't take him into the minor. They wouldn't sign him to a minor league contract, because he had one arm, So those are the kind of people, positive people that I grew up around, man, that kind of I was able to watch and hopefully one day that I could wear their jockey strap or shoes, But
that also kind of shaped, having those relationships and having those connections with those individuals. I would think they kind of shaped long term the credibility you had in the city when you were able to do some of the groundbreaking, trailblazing things you would do with your career. Would you say? I say
the people that were responsible for that were my teachers. My teachers and my coaches, because back then we had teachers that cared. Right. They kept up with us. When I went homeless my senior year in high school, I was sleeping in cars because my mother had to be put in a mental institution. No one would take me in. But when I went to school, I felt like I was somebody. I was sleeping in my aunt's car. Another aunt, I was sleeping in her basement. You understand? But I decided I was going to go to school. You understand? 'Cause I felt like I was somebody. I was the star. I was the star player. And then my teachers and coaches would come up, give me $5, $10, say, okay, great game. But they were helping me survive. That's what they were helping me do. And they wouldn't let on. You understand? Mm-hmm. So that's why today I tell these kids, look, your heroes ain't got no business being LeBron James, Stephen Curry, Taylor Swift, Beyonce. Your heroes should be your teachers and your parents, people that you can touch. And I say, I know you look over there and you say, well, Mr. Bell, they're old. I said, well, they didn't get old by being stupid.
Well, would you say that, those teachers that were willing to help you, did they see something special in you, or you think that was something they just probably would have done for anybody that they came across?
I think they would have done that for anybody. And when I became a radio personality, I was the first person in this town to be a Nike representative. I was a Nike rep for Nike shoes. I was the first sports and marketing rep for Budweiser beer. So I took advantage of that, and I said, I'm gonna honor my teachers. I'm honoring the principal. I had a luncheon for him down at Mingo's restaurant. I'll never forget it. Nobody had ever done that before to say thank you, man. They loved it. I brought Dave Bing to town. I brought all them guys to town. Elgin Baylor sent a telegram. He couldn't come, which I had that telegram still today. But man, do talk about something being satisfying and spiritually uplifting. Even the cop that used to chase us, Officer Dixon, had him there, man. Mm-hmm. And it was a fantastic experience, man. You got to be able to say thank you, man. That's why, man, everybody say, well, Harold Bell got man, he on the outs with everybody, because folks take for granted what you do for them. You don't do things expecting something back, but you expect after the guy who didn't have 2 pennies to rub together, become the first professional boxer to make $100 million, will come back and say, Harold, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Can I send a kid to college? Can I help you with your Christmas toy party? Never did it, man.
And we'll talk about that individual in a minute. But getting back to Petey Green, So
Yeah.
and I just wanted
That's
to kind
funny,
of
man. That's funny.
I wanted to kind of shake just to give people perspective because I made the assumption that people know these stories, but I've had the opportunity to sit down and hear you tell them. So I'm in the know on a few of these stories, but can you kind of go back to this particular golf course?
Yeah, Burning Tree Golf Course.
Right.
So anyway, I get in early. So now I'm walking back and forth because what we do, all the guys from the project, we stuck together and we rode back in town together. You know, we had to hitch a ride with the members, but we try to meet at Westmoreland Circle and get on the bus and ride back home together to the project.
Right.
Well, this particular day, I get in early. So I'm walking back and forth. I'm getting bored. So some say, man, let me go down here and see what this Petey Greens are about. He ain't about that much, right? So I go down there in the woods, man. In 10 minutes, I'm back up in front of the caddy shack. I'm dead broke. Ain't got no money.
In 10 minutes.
10 minutes. And man, I'm saying, how am I going to tell my mom I've been out here all day? I ain't got no money. I don't want to see my homeboys because they done forewarned me, you know?
Right.
So now I'm walking back and forth trying to figure out what I'm going to do. Petey Green gave me $2 to get on the bus and buy some little tavern hamburgers. So anyway, I'm walking back and forth. So the caddy master says, hey, Little Bell, come here, Little Bell. I said, yes, sir, Mr. Elvin. He said, look, I got two bags. These 2 members ain't going but 9 holes. I said, great, man. I grabbed them bags. I started walking toward the first tee, and all of a sudden I heard somebody say, hey, Harold, are you ready for an adventure? I turn around, I see these 2 white men smiling at me. And one of them is the Vice-President of the United States of America, Richard Milhouse Nixon, and his Attorney General, William Rogers. So I look at him, I say, man, come on, let's go. Just give me the money. So we get to the first tee. And by the time I got to the 3rd hole, I found out what the Vice President was talking about was I ready for an adventure. His ball stayed in the woods and the trees more than the birds and the bees. Man, I was in and out of them woods, man. It was still hot in the evening, man. And I said, oh my God, man, this guy can't play. But Attorney General Rogers was an outstanding golfer. He was teaching him how to play. So anyway, I said, well, one good thing, we ain't going but 9 holes. So this will be over after 9 holes.
It won't take too long.
Yeah, it won't take too long. Yeah. Get up to the 9th hole. Vice President hits another ball in the woods. He comes out of the woods and holler across the fairway to Attorney General Rogers and say, hey, Bill, let's go 9 more. I said, oh my God, no, he didn't say that, man. So then we'll go 9 more holes. It's pitch dark. We're coming up to the 18th hole. I look at the clubhouse and I see some lights on, about 4 or 5 lights. Man, it's dark, man. My homeboys done left me and everything.
Right.
So Vice President has another ball in the woods, and he said, okay, Harold, that's it, let's go. So we go in, I'm waiting for him to bring my money.
Crazy.
And I'm looking at the parking lot. There's 4 cars in there. I don't know how I'm going to get home. About 10 miles to the bus stop through the woods.
Right.
I ain't going through there. So I said, well, maybe when some of the kitchen help will come out and I get a ride. And I'm walking back and forth, man. And who busts out the clubhouse but the Vice President? He said, Harold, you need a ride in? I said, yes, sir, I surely do. He said, come on. I get out to the parking lot, man. They got this big black Cadillac about a mile long, look like it. Now you got to realize during 1958, around 57, that time, Vice President had no Secret Service men. It was just he and Rogers, right? So Rogers go get in the driver's side, Vice President go get in the passenger side, and man, I open up that back door. It looked like an apartment. I said, golly, Moses, I'm getting lost back here. So we drive on in, man. The Vice President looking at me smiling. You know, he got something on his mind. So I said, so I ain't say nothing. So he said, Harold, tell me about your family. You know, where you live, you know, how many brothers and sisters you got? What high school do you go to? I said, wow, man, the Vice President of the United States and the little black kid taking an interest in me. So that inspired me, you know.
So you started talking.
Yes, indeed. So I said, sir, I live in a housing project called Parkside. My mom is a single parent mom trying to raise 2 of us, and my grandmother's raising my older brother. I said, we making it. He said, well, what high school you go? I said, I go to Spingarn High School. He said, wow, okay. He said, you playing this sports? What did he say that for? I stuck my chest out. I said, yes, sir. I played football, basketball, and baseball. He said, wow. Now, if you know anything about Richard Nixon in his history, he loved sports. He loved talking sports. This guy, if he had not become president of the United States, I bet you $1 to a donut he would become a sports talk show host or a writer. He loves sports. So, He said, "Oh, you play all 3 sports?" He said, "Oh, that's great. That's great." I said, "Yes, sir." So the next question he asked me knocked me to my knees. He said, "Harold, how are your grades, son?" I said, "Oh, my God." No, he didn't say that. He didn't say that. I said, "Not good, sir. Not good." So he said, "Look, you gotta take your education to the next level. If you're going places, you gotta take your education to the next level." And so we get on in the Westmoreland Circle. He dropped me off. He said, "Okay, Harold, see you next time." So I ended up caddying for him several more times. And this man started reading the Washington Post and Washington Star. He knew when I was scoring a touchdown, how many baskets I was making, when we were losing games. And he see me on the weekend and tell me, man, I blew my mind, you know. So I said, wow. So anyway, make a long story short, he went his way and I went my way. 1959, I ended up going down because I had to stay over for another year. My senior class was 58, but I came out 59, transferred to another school to play another year ball because I had messed up at Spingarn, man. I messed up. So anyway, my coach got me out to this other school and I ended up getting a scholarship down to Winston-Salem State University. Thanks to Dave Brown, my coach at Spingarn. Him and Big House games were tight. And I remember I was in the pool room one summer, you know, and I didn't know what I'm going to do. You know, I'm in the pool room hanging out. Man, I saw this big guy come through the door, man. He was bigger than the door. So he came and said, "Where's Harold Bell?" Man, I thought he was a bounty hunter or something. He was a cop, you know. I ain't saying nothing. So Henry, the pool guy, man, on the pool, there he is over there. So he came over and he sat down and watched me finish my pool game. Then he told me who he was. And he was head coach at Winston-Salem. And I've been recommended by Dave Brown. And if I was thinking about coming to school, touch bases with him. And that's how I ended up down Winston-Salem, saving my life, getting out of these mean streets because Coach Brown had gone over to the St. Elizabeth, the mental hospital, talked to my mom, and she was worried about me, you know. So he came back and said, "You gotta get out here. You gotta go to school." Did you even have school on your mind at that period of time, or did school just find you? School just found me. But you know what? I was a damn fool. I thought I wanted to go to Michigan State, Ohio, Notre Dame. I ain't have grades to go to the bathroom. I'm talking about going. I want to go to one of these big schools, you know, Southern Cal, somewhere like that. But man, the best thing happened to me, man, was going to Winston-Salem. Saved my life. I'm telling you, saved my life. I owe Big House. Me and Big House stayed at it, man. We stayed up in each other's face. He was a big dude, too. He's a legend. He was a legend, man. Look, our birthdays were the same day, May 21st. And you see up here on the wall here where me and Big House are celebrating our birthdays together, right over your shoulder, right there on your, this one. See right there? See Big House? Oh, right here. Yeah, Earl of Pearl, Monroe, Big House, and myself. So he was like a father to me, man, you know. I flunked out of school my freshman year down Winston-Salem. I flunked out of school, man. And you know, House came to me, it's time to go home. He said, "Man, you got to send you back up on the block, man. We ain't got no money to send no dumb athletes to summer school, you know." So what happened, man, he got with my high school coach, Dave Brown. Dave Brown sent money down for summer school for me. Oh, wow. And you know where I stayed? I stayed with Big House, with his son and daughter and wife in his house, man. You hear what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Man, you know, that is fantastic. I look back on that and I'm saying, how am I going to say something bad about Big House, even though I do? But I love the man. The man looked out for me, man, you know. So he's responsible for me to be sitting here with you guys right to this day. Man. I mean, he participated in all my radio shows. Whenever I had a fashion show or benefit, he'd come to D.C., he'd be right there, man. So yeah, God has been good, man.
Oh, that's a blessing. That's a blessing within itself. But you didn't stay and finish at Winston-Salem?
No, I didn't, and it's my fault because my mom got sick, and I had to come home and check on my brothers. I had a little young brother who stayed in trouble. Earl, that one I'll tell you about, a thug, ended up being a policeman, a D.C. cop for about 18 years, and a thug. I had to come home and try to get the house in order and, check on my mom. And of course, I came home. I went to play semi-pro football. I was looking at the NFL. I played with a team called the Charleston Rockets in Charleston, West Virginia, coached by Perry Moss. I went up there where I had these NFL dreams, right? And I got there, man. I was catching everything too, man. I think I would make the team. And one night, somebody come tap on the little card, say, "Coach want to see you." And I got cut. I was like the last cut, But, I came on back home and I started working with young people. My first job was with the United Planning Organization, but I played minor league football team with a team called the Virginia Sales. They were a minor league team for the Redskins, and we were the most popular team in town over the Redskins because we had some dynamite athletes, man. We won several, and we played down in Mobile. We played at Last Stadium. Yeah, we beat the Mobile Tarpons. Really? Look up that history. We won the championship, man. Yep.
At Last Stadium?
Yeah, at Last Stadium, man. First time we played in a stadium like that, we had a ball down there, man.
Oh, it's an interesting story. That is interesting. Can you kind of take us to when you revisit that guy that you caddied for back in junior high? Because he even played a role and a part in helping you to get a career going.
Yeah, that's right. Man, I remember coming back home. Like I told you guys, I started my first job at the United Planning Organization with Petey Green and H. Rap Brown. Then I moved up to the D.C. Recreation Department as a roving leader, working with youth gangs because the UPO had given the D.C. Recreation Department a grant to hire roving leaders. And so the stipulation was that you guys got to hire Harold Bell. So I ended up in that program. And I remember 1968, man, exactly where I was when the riots broke out. I was working with the D.C. Recreation Department, and I was staying on the corner of 9th and U Street, 3 blocks from Ben's Chili Bowl, with Willie Wood, who played for the Green Bay Packers. Willie Wood was working with the D.C. Recreation Department that summer. We said, "Well, Harold, what was Willie Wood, an NFL ball player working in D.C. Recreation Department?" Well, you guys got to remember that back there during that time, they weren't making this asinine money they making today. Right. So Willie had to come home and get a second job, either teaching or with the D.C. Recreation Department. That year, he was working with the D.C. Recreation Department. And we just had lunch at Chez Maurice, a popular restaurant in Crowd. We stand on the corner, man. Beautiful, beautiful day, man. And somebody rolled by and hollered, "Hey, Harold, they just shot and killed Dr. King in Memphis, Tennessee." Man, our hearts just dropped. We didn't know what to do. So we called up to D.C. Recreation Department and said, "Well, Harold," our director said, "Well, you guys got to stay out there because you're well known, you're high profile, you may be able to save some lives." And man, we started walking down the U Street corridor. It looked like buildings started burning all around us, man. Man, that was something, man. So walking toward us was a guy by the name of Luke Seymour. See that guy, that judge up there? Yes. He was walking toward us. And Luke was the first black modern-day U.S. Marshal put in charge by the President of the United States, Lyndon Baines Johnson. But Luke lived here in D.C., and we knew Luke from the street, so he was walking toward us. So the three of us joined arms and started walking down the U Street corridor with all buildings getting burning and people looting. And we got down in front of Ben's Chili Bowl, and Luke saw Ben standing over there in front of the Chili Bowl. He said, "Oh, let me go over here and see what's happening." So he went over there, and Ben told him that they had been ordered to close all businesses down by the White House, by the police department. And he came back to us and said, "Oh, they can't close Ben's Chili Bowl down. Ben's Chili Bowl has to be there for first responders, policemen, firemen, doctors, nurses, military personnel, and youth advocates like myself. We had some place to eat." So Luke left us and went and didn't come back for about 20 minutes. So he came back and he said, "Hey, I just got through talking to the president. He's going to allow Ben's Chili Bowl to stay open." Ben's Chili Bowl was the only business to stay open during the riots. Now, when the riots, everything had cooled down. See, a lot of people don't realize what happened in the riots 1968. There were no arrests during the first day. There were orders sent out say, "Just monitor the situation. Don't arrest nobody." And the looters went wild. You understand? So I think that's the same thing happened in Ferguson. Y'all think about at Ferguson, how they brought out the National Guard before the riots. But as soon as the riots started, the National Guard was nowhere to be found. Well, that's what happened here in D.C. Police didn't arrest anybody till the second day. Now by the third or fourth day, whenever, when Ben and Virginia look out that door and they see all this devastation, only 3 places were left standing. Lee's Flower Shop, Industrial Bank of Washington, and Ben's Chili Bowl.
On U Street.
On U Street, man. Devastating. Mm-hmm. Man, just think, I want you guys to think about 1968. You could buy a home up there for $50,000. You know what it costs you today to buy a 1-bedroom condo? $750,000. 2 bedrooms, $1 million. You think we're going to ever be able to get back in there? Forget that.
Not with them numbers.
Never, man. We'll never get back in there. They done priced us out. And you know what? The sad part is that we burn down our own communities. And this is all part of the plan. That's why they didn't have nobody arrested. That's what happened in Ferguson. They burned down all the mom and pop operations, man.
Yep,
the people never be able to get back.
And that's the importance of being strategic in your response to injustice and stuff like that, because you damage your own stuff, or you make a irrational decision, it could come back and be truly detrimental to the legacy. Man.
To this day, today, D.C. is the most expensive city to live in America, surpassing San Francisco and New York.
I definitely believe that, because I live here.
Yeah, man, it's rough.
It's expensive. But you spoke about the recreation center. You were appointed by President Nixon.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was getting at when I asked you about that gentleman that you caddied for.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Vice-President.
Well, what happened, I'm glad you brought that. 1969, I'm still working with D.C. Recreation Department, right? I'm standing in front of Ben's Chili Bowl. I'm standing out there in front, beautiful day, and one of the homeboys going to say, Harold, your man is down there on 7th Street touring the ride area. I said, what you talking about, man? He said, your man is down there, man. I said, what man? He said, the President of the United States, fool. I said, Richard Nixon. Yeah. So I leave my car, run down there. I'm going down to see my friend, right? I get down there, man. I can't get nowhere near him. He got 6, 7 Secret Service men deep. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to get by them. And I tell one of the Secret Service men, I say, hey, man, tell him that it's Harold Bell. I used to caddy for him at Burning Tree Golf Course.
Did you feel like that was gonna be enough?
Yeah, you already read my mind. You know the Secret Service man said, write him a letter. So I did. I went home. I got with my wife and my cousin, and we wrote a letter to the White House. 2 weeks later, I get a letter from the White House, from the President of the United States, saying how proud he was to see that I had returned to the young people whose lives once resembled my very own, and how proud he was of me, and that he would be in touch. 2 weeks went by. I get another letter from the White House and inviting me and my wife to the White House for lunch. And that's that picture right up there where you see President Nixon and Bill Rogers with my wife inviting us into the Oval Office, man. So that was fantastic. You know, this is a time, man. I wasn't no Republican. I wasn't no Democrat. Mm-hmm. I'm just a young black dude. You understand? Mm-hmm. But man, the player haters came out. They came out, man. He did Tom and he did. Man, what are you talking about? You understand? Man, the President of the United States is going to invite me to the White House, and you think I ain't going? Come on, you got to be crazy, man. I was Tom, yeah. So anyway, I ended up getting the presidential appointment out of that. And I worked with the President's Council on Physical Fitness and Sports with Bud Wilkerson, the great coach at Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. I had been appointed in charge of that office. I worked for a year, but Bud would always leave me in there and be gone. And I called the White House. I called Herb Klein, who's the director of communications. I said, Herb, tell the president he got to find me something else. I got to get back out in the streets with the kids. So they did. They found me another job with the Department of Defense called Domestic Actions. And that meant I was coordinating all activities on military installations in this area. I would take the community on when the military personnel were not using the ball fields, the swimming pools, mm-hmm. tennis courts, libraries. I could take community people on. And in 1971, I think I found the first halfway house for juvenile delinquents ever established on a military installation at Bowling Air Force Base. And that guy, Judge Moore, I was telling you about, he became a judge after the U.S. Marshal Service, and he helped me coordinate that with the district, and I was with the federal government, and a white boy named Colonel Ryder, it was his idea. It's Harold. All your connections in D.C. and juvenile facilities are overrun. Say, how about bringing some of them kids on here? Because we had empty places. And that's how Bowling Boys Base started, man. You talking about something inspiring, man, when you bring about 25, 30 kids on to live on base, man. It was something else, man. It was something else.
Can you kind of get into how you got into being a radio personality?
Yeah, what happened, in fact, this leads right into it because, as you guys know, Watergate came and I was out of a job. So now my man, Petey Green, that thief and crook I was telling you about, has his own radio talk show. So Petey and I become great friends over the years, and he gave me 5 minutes on the Petey Green show on Sunday to do sports. Mm-hmm. And that's how I parlayed that into a 30-minute talk show with Bobby Bennett, who was the number one DJ in the country at the time at WL when Petey kicked me to the curb.
This was in what year?
This was in 1970.
Had you had those kind of aspirations to be on the radio, to be a personality?
No, Petey loved sports. And we were sitting at lunch one day. He said, man, he pretended he hated Redskins. You understand? Everybody loved Redskins, and that was more controversy. He had more listeners, so he had to bring me on as the other part of the file to say, to get a Redskin report and talk about positive things of Redskins. I was tight with Larry Brown, Roy Jefferson, Ted Back, Harold McClinton. They were all my boys, So that made the show popular, man. And I went from there, from Bobby Bennett up to WOOK, the summer of 1970, and started Inside Sports. Inside Sports came from my wife. We sitting at the dining table one day eating dinner. So I said, Hattie, I got this new sports talk show at WOOK. What shall I name it? And right away she said, Inside Sports. I said, where you get that from? She said, well, number one, you get all the inside information before anybody else, before Channel 4 or 5, Washington Post. They turn to you. They turn to you. They listen to you. I said, that is great. So that's how Inside Sports came about. And my lawyer told me, Harold, trademark this name from the very beginning. I wouldn't listen to him because I had ego tripping. So happy to be on the air. And guess what? They stole it from me, yeah. Washington Post stole it. They Washington Post kidnapped a guy by the name of John Welsh, who was working in the style section, took Inside Sports. Well, I'm having all these Michael Wilbon, Dave Dupree, I had all these guys on my show. They connived.
In the 70s?
This is in the 70s, man. Mm-hmm. It was like 78 that he took my title up to New York, started Inside Sports Magazine. I don't know if y'all remember that. They had an Inside Sports Magazine, and it folded after a couple of years, and he went on to be on ESPN as vice president. John Welsh just retired. They took my whole format, my radio format, and made it into a television format. Because, guys, was nobody writing commentaries when I started, was nobody playing message music, was nobody having media roundtables. You understand? I was doing all of that. I was playing. If you've seen Out of Compton, Inside Sports was Out of Compton before Out of Compton. Because I was playing message music like Wake Up Everybody, Black and Proud, Respect Yourself, Someday We'll Be Free, where my boy Ice Cube, they had to go underground and use profane language, right? So they did their thing underground. See, I did mine up top ground, but I stayed out of the way of FCC because I didn't use foul language, but I still was doing message music, getting the same message out. Right. I'm talking about the cops out there. I'm talking about the dirty politicians out there. All you got to do is listen to some of my shows and you hear all of that. Me giving Merrin Bird the blues. You understand? But not reaching back and doing the right thing in the community. I was the first one to do that. I am out of Compton.
I was going to ask the question kind of like, what was the landscape of like sports journalism prior to you? Because what you were, you were a trendsetter, you're a pioneer in that area and bringing all of those elements into like sports.
All you got to do is look on that flyer and see how many of these guys who benefited from Inside Sports before their 15 minutes of fame. James Brown, Sugar Ray Leonard, John Thompson, Kathy Hughes, Radio 1, Adrian Branch, Adrian Dantley. I saved Adrian Branch millions of dollars. David Falk stole money from him out of his account. And what happened, one of my fans stopped me on the street one day, pulled me over and said, Harold, can I talk to you? He was driving a UPS truck. He said, man, my wife works for David Falk. David is taking Adrian Dantley's money and using it for other investments. He said, just leave my wife out of it. So I went to Adrian's mother, Virginia. Adrian was out of town. He just got married. And I told Virginia, because I knew Virginia. I said, Virginia, David Falk is stealing, man, out of that. Oh, Harold, no, he ain't doing that. He just named Adrian a godfather of his child. I said, come on, girl. I said, just check on it. So when Adrian's wife got back in town, she was a lawyer. She had an audit. And they found out, man, this mom was taking the money from David Falk. And David Falk is still out there. How can he be still out there? Because they gave him a gag order that you can't, they settled in court, but you can't say nothing. How can that be, man?
How would you label your show during the 70s and how long did your show run?
My show ran from 1970 up to 1995. I've been on different, stations.
Right. But the Inside Sports and what you were doing was all the same. But what were you doing during that time, and how important was it to the movement? Because you were in the D.C. area, you were one of the first black radio hosts.
Yeah, I was
the first. You were bringing on guests and giving them a platform to kind of share their story and give them exposure. Is that accurate?
Yeah. I think one of the most important elements, man, he said, well, how did you have that much power? I had that much power because before anybody else, I went out and got my own sponsors. The radio station didn't pay me. I had control of everything that went on. You understand? On the air. And I had Maryland State Lottery. You look at some of the checks that I was making from Maryland State Lottery during the month, you think I was hitting the lottery. I was the first black to have, independent black, that had the Maryland State Lottery. I had Nike shoes. I had Budweiser. I was making anywhere from $10,000 a month to $20,000. And I got the checks to prove it. But I ain't let nobody know, right? I was low key, man. The only thing my problem was I didn't get that money to my wife and let her save it. I had that $2,000 or $3,000, $1,000 in my pocket to help the guys on the corner, That's where I came from, But that was the most significant thing, is that I was the first brother to go out and get his own sponsors. And they caught up with me. The only way they found they caught up with me because the politicians went behind my back and got my sponsors to renege on written contracts. I had to fight Maryland State Lottery in court. They broke me because you can't beat them, man. The pocket's too deep. They broke me. I mean, New York, Amsterdam did a hell of a story on me fighting the Maryland State Lottery. So that was the key thing, man, that a lot of these guys, man, you see every radio and television station in the country is doing something at Christmas time for kids. I started that here in D.C. I started 7 on Your Side and Consumer Reports started on Inside Sports with Paul Burry, who was on my show one Saturday, heard all these calls coming in. People asked me for advice, how I could help them. He took it back to Channel 7 and started 7 on Your Side. Now everybody in the country is doing that Consumer Report. People don't know that. And what the Channel 7 did, kicked Paul Burry to the curb because he thought he was too big for his pants. You understand? And man, the stories go on and on and on.
Talk about some of your most popular stories. You've told me Don King stories. You've shared Sugar Ray Leonard stories.
Oh man,
John Thompson.
Oh
stories.
Man, it's amazing, man. It really is, man. I think, like I said, Red Auerbach, Muhammad Ali, Jim Brown, they gave me credibility right away. I even had a Jimmy Connors on. I've had Andre Agassi, but all these guys followed those three because I had access. And I think one of the great stories, man, is I told you about I was writing for Bleacher Report, and I did the Two Faces of John Thompson. Right. And I got 55,000 hits in 3 days, man. The story was so popular because these guys don't know what they're talking about, man. They don't know what they're talking. And then I wrote the Sugar Ray Leonard story. Then they want me to clarify everything. How am I going to clarify everything to you? You weren't there. I lived these stories. You understand? So John Thompson, man, he sold me out with Nike Me and John were tight like this. I gave John Thompson 5 minutes on Inside Sports on Monday to promote Georgetown basketball when he couldn't get any other media play. You hear what I said? So now, when I sign up with Nike, I'm going up here to my man John Thompson, get him put on the Nike shoe for his team, right? That's going to be a feather in my cap, feather in his cap. I go up there. I say, John, look, man, I need you to put the Nike shoe. I had to call Big House, too.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So I called Big House, too, you know. So Big House said, well, Harold, you know, I'm with John McClendon. That's my man. He's with Converse. So, you know, I got to hang with him. I said, that's good. I understand. So I go to John Thompson, and he said, Harold, I think that's a good idea. Let me think about it. Now, Georgetown University was about a mile from the Nike store on M Street. I walked back down there. You know, Sam Jones was working Nike. Sam worked for me. You understand? So I go back down there, and man, I get to the store, and I get a call from Portland, Oregon, from my man who hired me, John Phillips. He said, Harold, weren't you supposed to go up see John Thompson today? I said, yeah. He said, what's up? He said, man, John Thompson just called out here and made his own deal. Sold me out. Sold me out, man. You hear what I'm saying? Man, I went up there next day. Now, I'm going to tell y'all, I went up next day. You know, I'm from the streets, man. You know, I went up the next day. I carried a baseball bat for me. You know, he about 7 feet tall.
You went there like Ice Cube?
Ice Cube. I waited outside, you know, for him to come out. But one of his ball players, somebody spotted me. Because when he came out the door and looked, he ran back in. You understand? But next time I saw him, I said, man, don't you ever in life say anything to me again. Because I gave you time on the air. You understand? When nobody else would. Plus, when he got an opportunity to hire a color guy, he hired a white boy. You know, but this is John Thompson. He's such a big fraud, man. And of course, he started making deals out in Las Vegas under the table with slot machines and everything. And then he, this white girl, Murray Finland, or whatever her name is, who was supposed to be his advisor, student advisor. She was the fiance of one of his coaches, Batman, that we kind of grew up with. He ended up taking the gal from Batman, you know, taking to Las Vegas and stuff. And then Gwen, of course, his wife found out about him and then sued for divorce. And he started threatening her because she thought he had mafia ties. Since he was out in Las Vegas, she was scared of him. So she told her lawyer, say, go check with Harold Bell. Harold Bell will tell you where all the skeletons are in his closet. She came to me and I said, look here, take him to court. He don't want to go to court. He got too many things that he don't want nobody to know about, right? Shoot, man, they sell out of court, I think somewhere in $6 million. And Gwen, a couple of weeks or months went by. She called me and my wife down to her office and wrote a check for $50,000, $40,000 for my Kids in Trouble program and $10,000 for my wife and myself. And the stories go on and on like that. People don't
Inside Sports, ladies and gentlemen.
And the Sugar Ray Leonard story. I gotta tell you the Sugar Ray Leonard story.
I know. Okay, go.
I gotta tell you the Sugar Ray. Now y'all know Sugar Ray Leonard. You know, he went on to become one of the great boxers of all time, man. And,
from this area.
From this area. And I've known him since he was a kid. And he went out and won the gold medal in the Olympics. So now he's coming home thinking he's going to have a ticker tape parade, right? Well, he get home, man, and the media wear him out for having a baby out of wedlock.
Mm-hmm.
So now he goes in the house and won't come out. So I'm down in Anacostia playing tennis. And who comes down there but Jinx Morton, his trainer, and Dave Jacobs, and a friend of mine named Melvin Jackson. I said, what's up? I look out there and see them out there. Hey, man, we need to talk to you. I said, what's up? He said, man, you need to go over there and get Sugar Ray Leonard out of the house. He won't come out, man. He done lost his self-esteem and everything. I said, what? So, I went over there next morning, knocked on the door. Man, what are you doing? Hey, man, I said, come on, man. All that pity stuff, man. Come on, no. I said, put your medal on, put your gold medal on. I mean, he put his gold medal on and start taking him out to elementary schools, talking to little kids. That will help build his self-esteem because they ain't have the hang-ups that we as adults had, you know, player haters and all that. Oh, you had a baby out of wedlock. You know, the kids loved him. And brought him on my show. I was the only brother that had a sports talk show. Let him co-host my show. He couldn't even put a sentence together. Couldn't talk worth nothing. My wife and I got him a book called a book of leaves and had him read out loud to himself. We gave that to him for a wedding gift when he married Juanita. And this guy, he was a sweet guy, man. He was really a nice guy, but man, this stuff started going to his head. And when he beat Benitez, was it Benitez? One of them when he won the first, Trinidad or Benitez. Mm-hmm. I was on the air, and after the fight, he called me on the air live and said over the air, man, said, Harold Bell, I'm the welterweight champion of the world today because you were there when nobody else was. And I thought, hey, man, that's great. This kid's going to be okay. So he left a number for me when I got off the air to call him and invited me over to out there on Palmer Park. He had just brought a new house for his mom. So I went over there, and first thing he said, man, now what can I do for you? I said, Ray, all I want you to do is reach back and help young people like I helped you. That's all. And when you're in town on the weekends, come on Inside Sports. Deal. Done. I ain't seen him since.
And that was when?
1978.
1970. Ain't seen him.
Never heard from him.
A lot of
I tried when I was losing my house. They ran me off the air. I was losing my house in foreclosure. I tried to call him, wouldn't return the call. And like I say, never brought nothing back for Christmas toy parties or nothing, man. But that's what happens. And what makes me so different from everybody else too. And I'm no goody shoes. What I found the common denominator is, man, with these guys, cocaine, drugs. Most of them, man, are on these drugs. And you find out any drug addict is paranoid. It's paranoid. I think everybody after. Most, and man, I could tell you some of those stories because my Santa's helpers, I did Christmas toy parties for needy kids for 45 years, my wife and I. Every year we do a Christmas toy party. It started in 1968. We didn't stop till 2013. 45 years of Christmas toy parties without grants or loans. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Without grants alone. You got these television stations telling people to bring multi-million-dollar stations. I'm going to bring them a toy for a kid. Bring me a turkey. They got all the money. Mm-hmm. Why are you asking, the community? Because you know what? They know the community want to be on television to be seen giving away $1 or turkey or something. You understand? Mm-hmm. Ain't nothing but a con game, man. Mm-hmm. That's all it is.
Mm-hmm. What would you say? You mentioned some earlier names. You mentioned Kathy Hughes.
Oh, yeah.
James Brown.
Oh, man.
How did
you got time for all them stories?
No, you don't have to tell all these stories. You don't have to tell all these stories. But how would you say you helped these individuals? Were they in the KID program?
I supported them when nobody else would. They either came through Kids in Trouble or Inside Sports. Mm-hmm. And all those people, Kathy Hughes, John Thompson, Sugar Ray Leonard,
Kathy
Michael Whitman.
She was in Kids in Trouble?
No, she worked at WHUR as a receptionist.
So this is before. Yeah,
as a receptionist. She had a little kid named Alfred. Yeah. You understand? Mm-hmm. I introduced Kathy Hughes to Earl Monroe, Larry Brown, who all became her friends. You understand? And she said to me, Harold, I need for you to be a mentor to little Alfred because he ain't got no daddy. Okay. I started putting Nike shoes on little Alfred, on her too, carrying little Alfred to Sunny Hills Camp up in Philadelphia, Big House Games in Earl Monroe Camp in North Carolina. You understand? And, of course, she went off on the deep end. This guy, Dewey Hughes, I don't know how she got the station from him, but she married him and she ended up with WOL. And, she's one of those folks that had a nose problem. You name it. But all of a sudden she get big. All of a sudden she don't remember Harold Bell. I look at her like she's crazy. I was there. You the one that asked me to be a mentor to your son.
Yeah. You know what? This kind of reminds me, we were talking about this earlier about, individuals and how they maintain their authenticity once they get to certain levels. Mm-hmm. And I think kind of what I'm hearing from it a lot of times though is these people are coming from somewhat empty places to start off with, and then you come into their life, you kind of have resources, and you say, I'm going to lift you up, but then they still are not people that have that substance enough to say, oh, well, somebody lifted me up, I'm going to lift somebody else up. They're just looking at what's in it for them.
One thing I want to say before we get out of here, there's a guy named Butch McAdams who has his own sports show on Radio 1. Yeah, I'm like a mentor to him because it kind of came up in my program, Kids in Trouble, on the playground. He never was a kid in trouble, but he ended up getting a sports talk show on WOL. And my dear friend was the general manager named Tony Washington. As he got the show, Tony came to me and said, Harold, look, man, I want you to do this show. You understand? I said, no, Tony, I can't do that. I said, I can't sell that young brother out, man. I said, I can't do that, man. That's not me. He said, but he ain't no Harold Bell. I said, I understand what you're saying, Tony. I said, but I cannot do this. It's about integrity and being honest with one another, looking out for each other, you know? Mm-hmm. And I stepped back. You understand? But we don't have that type of integrity today. Butch McAdams has become like one of those people that stand. Oh, it's okay. You know what I'm saying? I understand. But that's what happens in our community. We still don't know how to reach back and pull somebody else along with us. Mm-hmm. People don't realize that when you help other people, you help yourself. You help, man, there are very few financial rewards in helping other people, but the spiritual rewards are unlimited. My wife is a part of this, man. 47 years she's been hanging here with me. She comes from a civil rights background. Her father marched with Dr. Martin Luther King. We got a portrait we're trying to do now of him in a meeting with Dr. Martin Luther King when he was NAACP president in Orangeburg, South Carolina. So there's a lot of great history around, man, of reaching back, man. And I couldn't have done this without her.
That's a perfect segue, because I was going to ask you, how important in your journey was it to have a spouse that, I mean, was right there with you, probably saw the vision or saw some things that you didn't see that would benefit the collective? How important was that in allowing you to do what you've been able to do?
Very, very important, because my wife is very critical of me, you know, especially when I'm on the air, and she'll correct me in a minute. I mess up the King's language. But to have somebody like that, got your back, man, it was very, very important these 47 years. She's been the strength. When I say black women are my heroes, my wife is one of those people, man. You know, she come from a background, man, what is about civil rights and reaching back to you. And I'm very fortunate to have her as my mate.
Can you kind of talk about the relationships you've had, and just in general, David Aldridge, you mentioned them, and Mike Wilbon are some of the most popular sports journalists. What type of relationship did you have with those guys? And
I was mentors to those guys, man. You know, I was mentors to Michael Wilbon. I remember Michael Wilbon. We were at WHUR on to get ready to do a TV show, and we were in the green room, and Mike came in and he cried, you know, Harold, what I'm gonna do? George Solomon is changing my. He stand over my shoulder and write my column for me and interject them in. What I'm going to do? I said, Mike, as talented you are, you can find another job, man. You know, go back home to Chicago, write for the Chicago Tribune or somebody, you know. But Mike didn't take my advice, and you see where he is now. But you know what? I knew I can't trust Michael. I can't trust Michael Wilbon. Michael Wilbon came to me again and said they wanted him to go on what's the guy, Levy's show, Outside the Lines, to talk about the N-word. And he said, Harold, I'm not going to do it. He told me this in the media press room at the Wizards game. And I was so proud. I said, man, good. Yeah. He said, man, this guy ain't got nothing in the game when it comes to, black folks. He ain't got no horse in the game. He ain't got no horse in the race. So why would I go on there? I said, good, Mike. I'm so glad. I look up the next Sunday. Who's on there? Michael Wilbon.
With Jason Whitlock. What's your thoughts on Mr. Whitlock?
Oh, man. Man, I don't have really, I have very little respect for Jason Whitlock. Number one, he don't know his history. I quote him with that John Thompson piece that I wrote. He said John Thompson opened up the doors for other black coaches to get these jobs, and that he was the first team to go to and win the NCAA championship. It was not bad. An all-black team was them boys from where? Kentucky? Where?
Michigan.
No, not Michigan.
No,
you know.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Texas. They were from Texas.
Yeah, man.
Texas.
I saw them. I was out there at University of Maryland when they won it. The first black team.
They played against
Kentucky.
Kentucky. Yeah.
They played against what's his face was on that. Patino.
Yeah, he put all this stuff out. I said, man, you don't even know your history, man. How you gonna say John Thompson? John Thompson opened no coaches, no doors up for no black coaches. John Thompson looked out for himself, man. John Thompson sold people out. So that's when they say, man, you got to do your homework. And see, like I said, I'm not perfect, but you know what? I do my homework. When I went on the air, y'all stop and think about this. It was nobody saying, what's your question for Mr. Bell? I picked up the line cold. All right, whatever you want to say. Cause you know why I did that? Because if I didn't know, I say, I don't know, but if my next caller might know. All these guys want to be experts on everything. Now they got movie stars coming on and being a part. Man, come on. Look, you can tell folks this. What makes me different from the rest of these sports talk show hosts and media personalities is that I was a community personality before I became a sports personality. I knew the community. Now they become black community experts as soon as they get a column or get a show.
And that's what I was going to ask you to wrap up. What do you think about the current state of just journalism and just the current state of journalism and the current state of these personalities today?
Well, I tell you, number one, journalism today is the enemy of the black community. You understand? You don't know who to listen to. You cannot, because a guy got a black face. That don't mean nothing, man.
Can't trust that.
You can't trust it, man. And I listen to these guys on CNN. I try to be objective. You understand? They don't have a clue about what's going on with police brutality all over America. You know, they don't have a clue. They don't understand what really happened, why these cops are killing black folks and black men the way that they are. This all started with the Ku Klux Klan, with this code of silence and thin blue line. That was developed for white boys to protect them for the harm they was doing, brutality they was doing on black folks. That's why the code of silence, until you address the code of silence and the thin blue line, man, we ain't going nowhere. And I know both my brothers were law enforcement, and I had to protect them while they were on the force. One was the D.C. cop, one was the U.S. Marshal, man. And I had to go to fight for them because they stood up to be real men. We got a bunch of cowards and bullies on the police department with guns. There's a lot of good guys out there now, but they overrun the good guys, the cowards and bullies. These guys don't want to come forward because they're going to be ostracized. My brother died, man, because of this thin blue line. You understand? That's another story. U.S. Marshal, I'm the only one left standing with my brothers, man. Mm-hmm. So it's man, you know, we got all of these experts, man, and they don't have a clue, man. They don't have a clue. I've been out in these wars for 50 years, man, and I'm still out there because, man, the kids want to hear the truth. The kids want to hear the truth, and I get an opportunity, but to do that up at Ben's Chili Bowl, when I bring kids come in from all over the world, from Sweden, London, Australia. These white kids want to hear, man, about our history, man. They're not getting it. Our history is being suppressed, and what you guys doing is fantastic because you got to use this, man, to keep our history out there.
What last question? Why do you think you're seen as controversial? Or why do you think that why haven't you gotten back in the radio? What do you think is keeping you from progressing like the guys you mentor?
It's just, it's a different world, and people got different values, and people got to understand, anytime you tell the truth, you're not going to be popular. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be popular. And I had a friend, and she didn't mean anything about it. But I was talking to her about a week or two ago, and I was just telling some of the things that I was going through, you know. And she said, she slipped and said, well, Harold, some of this drama is self-inflicted. Well, I thought about that. I ain't coming right away. But she got to understand that being black in America, living in the community, working in the war zone, when I walk out that door, it's a 50-50 chance that I'm going to encounter some drama. You hear what I'm saying? Whether it's public transportation, whether it's down on U Street at Ben's Chili Bowl, being a black man in America, man, you're going to encounter some drama, 50-50 chance.
Great percentage.
Yeah,
of chance that you experience something.
I don't know, you guys may be too young, but I got to bring something up. Back in the Indian Wars with Buffalo Bill and you name it, Daniel Boone and them, the Indians used to have something called a gauntlet. Mm-hmm. Y'all ever heard of gauntlet? Mm-hmm. Okay, a gauntlet was when the Indians would capture some of them soldiers, and if the soldier wanted to earn their freedom, they had to run through this gauntlet a gauntlet. Indians be on both sides, mm-hmm. and they had weapons and stuff beating them. Yeah, if you get through that gauntlet,
you be free.
You're free. Well, that's the same thing. When I leave Suitland, traveling down to U Street on the Green Line, I'm in the gauntlet because all those stops in Anacostia, Congress Heights that I got to stop at, that's a gauntlet. I don't know who's going to come on that thing, man.
For sure.
You think about that, man. We're the same thing, man. Black men are under house arrest in America. We're under house arrest. We got cowboy cops, man, driving around here in threes in the patrol cars, pulling black men over, man, giving them tickets. And I wrote a 4-page letter to the governor about a month ago. He ain't responded yet. Telling him about the situation. Cause I decided I ain't gonna be scared, man. You understand? Mm-hmm. I ain't gonna be scared, man. I'm too old to be scared. But they got these cracker cops out here and some black guys done join them. They're pulling over people. I told the governor, if you don't believe that this is unfair, you go down to Upper Marlboro Court on any morning and go to traffic court, and the blacks outnumber the whites 10-1.
And that's probably the majority of the places that you go to across the country. And there's a great portion of our country that doesn't believe that this is a reality. Like these things are really going on. And I think that speaks back to the whole journalism picture and having people that are black faces that are in position to really get his commentary on their platforms, but they choose not to do it.
But our problem is this, and you guys know this. We don't own nothing. We don't own no media outlets. The Kathy Hughes Radio 1 controlled by Comcast. Mm-hmm. You understand? Probably the closest thing that we got to ownership is Oprah Winfrey. You understand? Ebony Magazine and sold their archives to the white folks. BET.
Viacom.
Mm-hmm. We don't own nothing, man. How we gonna own something? And that's the problem why they keep blocking me out, man. Because they can't buy me. Mm-hmm. I speak the truth, man. And they cannot deny. They wish they could find something on me, man, that Harold Bell do cocaine or Harold Bell and stole money for kids. Too late. Y'all didn't catch me back there then. It's too late now. Mm. You understand? Mm-hmm. And that's how they get us, man. Oh man, I
know we gotta wrap up.
Man, I know, man.
But just tell me, how would you like to be remembered? What is Harold Bell's legacy? How would you like when it's all said and done? What would you like your legacy to be?
Is that I never look for anything in return and trying to help other people.
And you always spoke the truth.
Always spoke the truth. That's it. I never looked for anything in return, but I always felt too, man, that once somebody makes it, man, and there's a need, that you should reach back and help that person, man. You didn't get there by yourself. A lot of these guys, man, forget, and they get there by themselves. Don King came out and said, I owe you, Harold, because you were there for me when nobody else, when they were calling me murderer and crook, and he's on tape, man. I got Jim Brown saying Harold Bell was there for me. I got George Foreman, man. I got testimonies, man. So, that's what people, they talk behind your back. How we keep, division in the black community, because he say, she say, and I want to remain anonymous. I don't ever want to remain anonymous.
My mom, you done said something. My mama she gonna stand up when she hear this podcast about people remaining anonymous.
Yeah,
they'll tell you something.
You willing to put your name behind any quote.
That's right. Anything, man. And one thing, if you guys, when you go out into the folks who know me or think they know me, say, tell me about Harold Bell, but don't tell me anything about him that I can't repeat your name. That's the only way you go get the truth. Mm-hmm. That's the only way. Tell me about Harold Bell, but don't tell me anything about Harold Bell that I can't use your name.
You can't put your name on it.
Yeah, you can put your name on it. That's all you guys do, man. That's all you gotta do, man.
My folks don't want to do that.
Mr. Bell, we really appreciate your time. We kind of ran over a few minutes, but just want to say thank you for getting up this morning and allowing us to come to your domain. And for those of you that'll watch it on the FreeLunch TV, we'll be able to share some of the pictures that you have in your room, because it's very evident that you had relationships with these people and you knew these celebrities, Muhammad Ali and Sugar Ray Leonard, Doug Williams, Burt Sugar, just a few other pictures and names that are actually hanging up in your office space. So I do commend you. I do want to say thank you for everything that you've done. And when I first met you, it was one of those things that, with you being such a legend in the D.C. area, being a native son of the D.C. area and having so much history, I thought it was important that we capture your story and your history so that it's told from you and not from the anonymous,
yeah,
or from somebody else's perspective. So that's the reason why we kind of wanted to have you on this show, and just kind of wanted to capture some of the great things you've done in our community and just really in Black history. When we talk about Black media, BG, and we talk about having media outlets, I think Inside Sports was a place that allowed some of these up and coming at the time athletes to tell their story and be heard in a world that really they didn't have a platform or an outlet. So, he spoke about Sugar Ray Leonard, and Sugar Ray Leonard, before he became the well-known beating Marvis Hagler and Roberto Duran, etc., he was on the Harold Bell Inside Sports show, and I think that says a lot, and that needs to be captured as part of our history.
Met a lot of people, been a lot of places. Who would you say was your best interview, your best sit down conversation?
We need to talk about Red.
Yeah,
we need to talk about Red.
Well, Muhammad Ali, he stands heads and shoulders above everybody, because after he beat George Foreman in his most famous fight of all, when he got back to America, he kept his word to me that I would be the first one to interview him. Now, when he told me that in Chicago, I ain't paid no attention to it. But he gets back in America, calls me. I'm living in an apartment, something like that. Hey, Harold, I'm back. Bring your crew on up, man. Let's do this interview. Now, I scooped Howard Cosell, 60 Minutes, the whole white media when I got this interview that's never been seen before, and they blocking it out right now. You understand? I got the copyrights on. That's why they can't show it. So they're hoping that I die out of here, and then they go take it and steal it, because they gave Muhammad Ali $50 million in 2007 for the rights to his likeness and name. You know what I'm saying? 20% of the advertising fee. That's a lot of money for Muhammad Ali for his mental and physical conditions that he's in. So he ain't lose. But they don't own my rights. They can't use my interview, and they know it. So when I go after the Washington Post, ESPN, man, I could care less, man. Cause I'm the real deal,
Real deal.
I am the
Godfather.
Yeah, that's what white boy gave me that name. Dick Heller of the Washington Times gave me that name. Harold Bell is the Godfather of Sports Talk.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing, man. So I've been blessed, man. And I thank you guys, man.
Thank you.
Thinking of me coming out, man.
Thank you.
I enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. Is there anything, you got any project, anything you coming out that you want people to be looking out for?
Yeah, man. I got my book coming out, The Legends of Inside Sports, from the Outhouse to the White House. And actually, I got 3 or 4 books, and the other one is I Had Ways of Making You Talk. That's another title. And I got to do it my way. I done had 4 or 5 movie proposals I can show you guys from big time folks who want to do my story, and I've said no. My wife has been mad at me because I've turned them down. But I am not gonna have them do my story like they did Petey Green. My story, I wanted to be done with my input. They didn't involve Petey's wife, his kids, or nothing. Nobody from D.C. I'm Petey's partner. So there was the Dewey Hughes story, the boy that gave Petey his break, and they get ready to come to town and do the Murray Burry story. I understand Spike Lee and Eddie Murphy are going to be doing that, and that's not going to be the real story because they ain't coming to the real people.
They ain't talking to the people.
I am the one that warned Murray Burry, told him to watch his back because they would get ready. FBI was getting ready to set him up. And Murray, I went up to the restaurant place called Faces one night, and Murray's driver was a guy by the name of I can't think I know that boy's name well. But anyway, he was a driver. He was sitting outside. And I told him, I said, man, go in there and get Murray and bring him out. I need to talk to him. I told Murray, look, Murray, they get ready to set you up, man. You need to step back. Oh, Harold, I got it. Don't worry about it. I got it. 6 months later, the bitch set him up. He wouldn't listen. And wouldn't come on my show the whole time he was in office until he was getting ready to go to jail. He came on my show that Saturday, went to jail that Monday, and said, apologize. He's not on the air. He said, Harold, you're right.
You were right. I should listen to you. Man.
So I got all kinds of stories, man.
So, BG.
Yes, sir.
Can you wrap it up for us?
Man, I ain't nothing else to say. This has been a great interview. Like we in the presence of greatness, and we getting this opportunity to talk to our heroes, man. So once again, we thank Mr. Bell for joining us. You got a website?
Yes. You can go if you want to find out. Really, all you can do is go up and pull up the originalinsidesports.com, the originalinsidesports.com, or you can just pull up Harold K. Bell. And stuff come up from all over the place.
And to our listeners, you have to go listen to the banter between Harold Bell and Mike Wise, that kind of discusses, the John Thompson interview and Harold's perspective on John Thompson. But then also you have to go and also listen to, there's a podcast where he kind of talks about some of the things he talked about this morning with him, how he met, President Nixon. So, really interesting personality, legend, within his own right, gives back to the community, is a bridge builder, is a legend in sports, and we honor you and we thank you as well as your wife for the role that you all have played.
You know, one thing I want to say to you guys too, don't let nobody ever tell you that it write a story on you, get a story written on you, that any kind of publicity is good publicity. It's not. I've had to challenge guys like David McKenna, Mike Wise, David Aldridge, when they write stuff, man. And the boy out of Minnesota, black brother, I gave him the story to write, man, and write it wrong, man. So when David Aldridge put the story up on NBA.com, people all over saw that story. And one of the things he said, Harold Bell trashes sacred cows. Man, he's supposed to be my man. Why you gonna put some, people don't know me. That's going all over. So why would you say I trash sacred cows like John Thompson? Who made John Thompson a sacred cow? You understand? So he mad at me. You understand? And I'm mad at him because, man, you should have never written anything. You should have did like the white boys do, and then most of them anyway. They write something on and they say, Harold, how did this sound? Is that we get it all right? He put it on out there, man. And now you can't take that back. I would have corrected. Once you put it out there, it's out there.
Trying to get them numbers. Trying to get them numbers.
Yeah, man. So I like David. And man, look here. I've been in some binds. I had to go to Davis, James Brown, Michael Wilbon, and get a few dollars because I'm about to need to pay my rent. I'm talking about chump change. I ain't talking about no real money. You understand? So I can't wait to get some money so I can throw it at him.
God's good, man.
All the time. On that note,
how can the people reach us?
FreeLunchPodcast.com for podcasts and blogs. Also, if you got any commentary, you want to let us know how you feel about this show, Twitter, FreeLunchPodC. Also on Instagram, FreeLunch Podcast. And be sure to see this video interview on FreeLunch TV, YouTube.
Bell, thank you for your time. BG, let's get up out of here.
Let's go.
The FreeLunch Podcast, home of the New South movement. I am your boy Tight. This our main man, BG.
Yeah.
And we out of here. Peace.
Out of here.